Millionaire discovers heartwarming truth, his new wife's shocking treatment of his daughter exposed. Jack Thompson stood at his pristine backyard, grill sizzling, laughter bouncing off freshly painted fences in his suburban cul-de-sac. On the surface, he was the archetype of success, wealthy entrepreneur, doting husband, and a proud father. But beneath that polished exterior lay buried tensions, particularly his 17-year-old daughter, Emily. To Jack, she was a shy, artistic soul navigating her tumultuous teenage years. To Hannah, his new wife, Emily was just a lingering reminder of a past life. "Jack, can't you talk to her?" Hannah snapped one evening over dinner, her voice tinged with frustration. "She needs to grow up. This art thing is just a phase." Jack's heart sank, the fervent love he felt for his new wife colliding with the protective instinct for his daughter. He remembered how hard adolescence had been for him, and he didn't want Emily to feel the same loneliness he had. Emily often found refuge in her drawings, which spoke the emotions her voice could not. A sketchbook filled with swirling colors and deep shadows lay hidden beneath her bed, unlocking a world where she could escape the noise and pressure of her father's success and Hannah's expectations. "Maybe they're right," she'd whisper to herself, her pencil trembling, as tears streamed down her cheeks. She felt invisible, lost in a tapestry of someone else's perfect life. As summer rolled in, the neighborhood began buzzing with barbecue preparations, but the atmosphere in the Thompson home shifted. Jack wanted nothing more than to create a loving family environment, yet with every barbecue, every gathering, Hannah's piercing comments aimed at Emily made him question his place as a father. "Discipline, Jack. She's talented, but talent needs structure." The words felt like daggers, leaving Emily more withdrawn and Jack more conflicted. At the local art festival, Emily's work showcased her soul, a canvas glowing with hope and desperation. Jack beamed with pride, choked up by his daughter's raw talent. But Hannah stood by, arms crossed, making biting remarks about the unprofessional presentation. The rift grew, and Emily felt exposed under her stepmother's gaze, while Jack's heart twisted in knots, torn between supporting his daughter and keeping peace with Hannah. Family counseling, Jack suggested one evening, desperate to mend the growing rift. But as sessions unfolded, each brought more tension and heartbreak, with Hannah defending her harshness while Emily grew increasingly quiet, retreating further into her art. After one particularly difficult dinner filled with silence, Jack stumbled upon an old box of letters in the attic. It belonged to Hannah. He read in shock about her troubled childhood and the pain that had shaped her demeanor. The conflict brewed inside him. How could he protect Emily without losing Hannah? Just as determination set in, his phone vibrated. It was Emily. "Dad, can we talk? I can't take this anymore." His heart raced. In that moment, he realized his family was unraveling. Both Emily and Hannah were hurting, each battling their demons in their own way. Jack sighed, standing at a crux in his life, stranded between two worlds. How could he mend this fracture without sacrificing a bond with either of them? As the night deepened, Jack faced a crossroads, knowing his next steps could either heal their family or shatter it forever. The story was far from over, and the question hung in the air, with so much at stake, which path would he choose? Jack sat on the edge of his bed, the late-night darkness wrapping around him like a heavy cloak. Emily's message echoed in his mind, "Dad, can we talk?" It was an invitation tinged with desperation, and he could almost feel the weight of her pain pressing down on him. How had things spiraled so far? He glanced over at the spot where Hannah usually slept. Tonight, she was at her sister's, giving him space to breathe, to think. Jack's heart ached for his daughter. He couldn't help but feel that he had failed her. In his pursuit to create a picture-perfect family, he had overlooked the cracks forming beneath the surface. Taking a deep breath, he reached for his phone and sent a quick reply, "Sure, Em. Just let me know when." The waiting began, gnawing at him until he felt he would burst. What would they talk about? Would she voice the struggles he could only guess at? Soon, a knock broke the silence. His heart pounded as he opened the door. There stood Emily, wrapped in a hoodie, her face pale. She looked small, almost fragile, and the sight caused a fresh wave of protectiveness to surge through him. "Can we go for a walk?" she asked softly, avoiding his eyes. Jack nodded, relieved she hadn't suggested the living room, a reminder of the oppressive atmosphere that had become their reality. They slipped outside into the cool night air. Stars sparkled above, but their brilliant light felt dim compared to the turbulence between them. They wandered slowly down the street, the only sound being the crunch of gravel beneath their feet. Jack could sense the tension gnawing at her, the hesitation before speaking, the tightness around her mouth. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Emily stopped and turned to him. "Dad," she began, voice trembling. "I can't keep pretending everything is okay." Each word was a weight lifting, but also more burdensome. "I know," Jack replied, anguish creeping into his voice. "I've felt it too. I want to help, but I'm just so scared of losing both you and Hannah. Sometimes, it feels like she doesn't care about me. I'm just some obstacle in her perfect life." The pain in her eyes pierced through him. Jack took a step closer as a wave of guilt washed over him. "She does care, Emily. I thought, if I let her take charge, it would bring some structure, some normalcy." He caught himself, realizing how empty that sounded in light of Emily's struggles. Emily looked down at her shoes, disappointment etched on her face. "Normalcy isn't what I need. I need you to stand up for me." Her voice was quiet but resolute. "I've been trying to balance everything," he admitted. "I thought if I kept the peace, everything would work out." "Are you happy?" she shot back, uncertainty swirling in her eyes. Jack froze. The question hung heavy in the night air. Were they happy? Was he fulfilling the role of a father, or merely playing the part while his family crumbled around him? I don't know. I thought. But what do you really want, Dad?" Emily pressed. "I want you to be happy. I want us to be a family, even if things aren't perfect." Emily took a deep breath, her eyes wide with hope and trepidation. "Then maybe we need to confront Hannah together. If you really want things to change." The thought sent a thrill of fear and excitement racing through him. Could he face Hannah? With a world of complications on the line, could he advocate for his daughter without sparking a greater fire? Jack felt the stirring in his chest, a blend of hope and dread. "Okay, let us do it," he finally said, resolve building within him. But as they turned to head back, a sudden noise shattered the calm. An unmistakable shout echoed down the street. Jack's heart raced, and he exchanged a glance with Emily. What was that? Both turned instinctively toward the commotion, a sense of dread creeping in. As they hurried back, Jack wondered, was this the moment their family would finally fracture further, or could it serve as the catalyst for a new beginning? The weight of uncertainty loomed, and the night had more surprises in store than they anticipated. Jack and Emily hurried down the street, the shadows playing tricks as the night deepened. Each step felt heavier, the earlier resolve being weighed down by an unwanted tension. The echo of that shout rolled through his mind like thunder. What had happened? Were they about to walk into something dangerous or, worse, something that would pull them apart even more? They rounded the corner, and the scene unfolded before them. A small group had gathered, a couple of neighbors, voices raised in concern. In the center stood Hannah, her face flushed with anger, arms crossed tightly against her chest. The unmistakable sound of tears echoed faintly as she shouted, "You don't understand me. You never have." Jack exchanged a stunned glance with Emily. This wasn't what they planned. This chaotic confrontation was not meant to happen here. But it was clear from Hannah's posture that all the frustrations they had been tiptoeing around had finally exploded. Jack felt a twist in his gut. He knew he had to step in before this went any further. "Hey! What is going on?" he called, his voice cutting through the group like a knife. The murmurs quieted, eyes shifting from Hannah to Jack and Emily as they closed the gap, bracing themselves for an emotional storm. Hannah glanced up, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Dad, you don't get it. They keep saying things about me, and it's not fair." Her voice was trembling with the tremors of rage and hurt. Jack stepped closer, reaching out a hand, but Hannah recoiled, the space between them suddenly expanding. "Please, just listen," he pleaded, treating each word as a delicate thread he didn't want to snap. "Listen to what? That I'm too much to deal with? That I'm a burden?" she retorted, voice rising again. "Of course not," he said, the urgency of the moment pressing against him. "You are not a burden to me, Hannah. But we need to talk. All of us." Emily moved beside her sister, catching Hannah's gaze. "I know it feels lonely, but I'm here, too. We're both hurting, and we need each other now more than ever." The weight of unspoken truths lingered in the air. Hannah hesitated, her shoulders slumping slightly as she processed the plea from her sister. This was the path Jack wanted. They'd need to speak honestly if they were to confront their collective pain. "Can we talk back at home? Just the three of us?" Jack managed, his heart racing with anticipation and dread. He could feel the warmth of that earlier resolved moment rushing back, but it was mingled with the confusion of how much they'd let things deteriorate. "Hannah, please," Emily added softly. The sincerity in her voice seemed to reach through the barrier that had formed. Finally, Hannah nodded. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental. The crowd began dispersing, whispers fading, leaving the three of them at the center of an uncertain storm. As they began walking back home, Jack glanced at Emily. Hope flickered in her eyes, but he could feel the underlying fear. Would this conversation heal their fractures or deepen them? When they arrived, a tension crackled in the household air, a mix of adrenaline and painful anticipation. They settled at the kitchen table, and silence stretched between them, heavy and palpable. Jack glanced at his daughters, and in that moment, an overwhelming desire to bridge the chasm between them filled him. What if we started by sharing how we truly feel? No holding back. He was surprised by the steadiness of his voice given the whirlwind inside him. Emily nodded, her expression encouraging, while Hannah eyed them both warily. Jack took a deep breath. Would this be their turning point, or were they inviting even more chaos into their lives? Just then, another loud thump echoed from the living room, followed by muffled voices. Jack's heart sank. Whoever or whatever had arrived felt like an obstacle to the fragile moment they were trying to create. What now? Jack muttered, feeling the familiar dread creeping in once more. Would it be another distraction? Or could it be a harbinger of change, something that could only shake his family into a new perspective? He felt the pull of uncertainty, but was determined to navigate through it together. The only question left hanging in the air was, would they be able to face yet another challenge, or would this be the moment that splintered their hopes for a better future? The thump in the living room echoed again, shaking Jack from his spiraling thoughts. He glanced first at Emily, then at Hannah. They shared the same look, an uneasy mixture of anxiety and defiance. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that whatever noise lurked in the shadows of their home might derail their chance at healing. "Stay here," he whispered, more to himself than to them. He stood up, his heart hammering in his chest as he made his way towards the disruption. As he approached the living room, the voices grew clearer, mingled with laughter. Confusion washed over him. Was it a visitor? Jack rounded the corner and found his brother, Mark, plopped unceremoniously on his couch, feet resting on the coffee table. A couple of takeout boxes lay open beside him, filled with remnants of his nonchalant feast. "Hey, Jack. Thought I'd swing by," Mark declared, sporting an easy grin that felt misplaced in the suffocating atmosphere. The joviality in his tone clashed with the urgency of the family situation. "What are you doing here?" Jack snapped, frustration bubbling up. "Can't you see we're in the middle of something?" Mark raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback. "Wow, touchy. But hey, I helped clean out your fridge," so he gestured towards the boxes as if they'd excuse his intrusion. Jack felt a wave of frustration surge within him. Here he was trying to mend the cracks in his family, and Mark was treating it like another casual visit. "Look, this is not a good time," Jack said, forcing his voice to stay steady. "Hannah is upset. We need to talk, not sit around and eat food like it's a party." Mark tilted his head, and for a moment, Jack saw a flicker of understanding in his brother's eyes. "All right, man. But you know I just wanted to lighten the mood." "I can take a hint," he replied, his tone a less confrontational one. Jack's chest thudded as the tension in the room thickened. Mark stood and grabbed one of the takeout boxes to toss it in the trash. "Why don't we just take a step back for a minute?" Mark suggested softly, scanning the room. "I didn't realize at that." Jack glanced back at the kitchen, where Emily stood watching, arms crossed and waiting for the right moment. He knew they needed to seize this time together. "Thanks for stopping by, Mark," Jack said, eyes glimmering with gratitude. "But this we can figure it out. I just need a moment with my girls." Mark nodded, sensing the gravity of the situation, and quietly excused himself to the other room. Feeling a surge of relief, Jack turned back to Emily and Hannah. "Okay, where were we?" Hannah looked uncertain, but the brief interruption seemed to ease some of her tightness. I don't know, Dad. It feels overwhelming." Jack inhaled deeply. "I know it does. I feel it too. But we're not going to fix everything all at once. Just can we start by sharing one thing we feel?" Hannah's brow furrowed, but her walls began to lower. The idea had a faint glimmer of a potential breakthrough. After a moment, Emily's voice broke the silence, hesitant but steady. "I feel scared," she admitted, vulnerability audible in her tone. "Scared of losing us, of losing you both." Hannah nodded slowly, the sense of relief in sharing washing over her. "I'm scared too. Scared of being judged, scared of being alone." Jack's heart ached for them, but their honesty crackled with hope. "You're not alone. We're all scared, but we can navigate through it together." Suddenly, a loud crash from the kitchen jolted them. Panic spread through Jack's chest as he rushed back to the source of the sound. "What now?" He paused at the doorway, overwhelmed by the pressing questions. Would they face yet another barrier, or could this chaotic night somehow turn into a moment of clarity, a new beginning? "Stay close," he murmured, turning back to Emily and Hannah. The fear was back, tightening its grip just as they seemed to take a step forward. What awaited them would either draw them further apart or bring them back together. And that reality loomed just ahead. Jack crept through the doorway, his breath caught in his throat. The kitchen was a mess. It looked like a scene out of a movie. Flour spilled across the floor, a few dishes shattered on the ground, and a single, forlorn piece of cake sat defiantly on the counter, untouched. "Mark!" he shouted, panic lacing his voice. The chaos felt like a silent alarm, igniting every fear that had burrowed deep in his heart. He didn't see his brother anywhere, and the silence hanging in the air felt heavy, like a storm about to break. Footsteps echoed behind him, and he turned to find Emily and Hannah cautiously approaching. Their faces were masks of concern. "What happened?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She peered around him, eyes widening at the sight. "I don't know," Jack replied, frustration bubbling into panic. What was Mark even thinking? He turned back, heart pounding, desperate for an explanation. Was this another sign of the chaos that seemed to drift effortlessly around them? As if on cue, Mark emerged from the hallway, looking sheepish, a flour-covered apron dangling from his neck. "I thought I'd make a snack," he said, flashing an apologetic grin that only ignited Jack's frustration. "Guess it didn't go according to plan." "Not a snack, Mark. The kitchen looks like a bomb went off," Jack nearly shouted, hands clenching into fists at his sides. Only a moment ago, they had made progress. Now, it felt like they were slipping back into the shadows. Hannah stepped forward, brow furrowed. Can we just help clean it up?" Her voice softened as if she worried that anger would splinter them further. Jack turned to her, the sight of her determination piercing through his own turmoil. The weight on his chest lightened just a bit. Okay, yeah. We can all pitch in. Maybe it will help us connect better. Emily nodded, and when she moved to grab a broom, it was as if a ripple of comfort spread through the air. Jack joined his daughters, suddenly aware that sometimes fragile moments can be mended together. They worked as a team, laughter bubbling up amidst the mess, and Jack realized he hadn't laughed in days. Who knew making a cake could cause so much trouble? Mark joked, tossing a wad of flour into the air like confetti. The girls giggled, lightening the mood more with each shared joke and teasing shove. As they cleaned, stories filled the kitchen, shared between brushstrokes and sweeping motions. Hannah spoke about her recent school project, her face lighting up with each word. Emily chimed in with memories of baking with their mother, her voice thick with nostalgia and warmth. But beneath the laughter, a deeper thread of emotion wove its way through Jack's heart. Memories stirred of simpler times, times where they all felt whole. Yet he could still sense the underlying fear they each shared, the looming questions of their family's future. Finally, after what felt like hours, they stood in a clean kitchen, weary but uplifted. Jack turned to his girls, their faces flushed with life and laughter. I'm proud of you both. This isn't easy, but we're doing it. Together. Just then, the doorbell rang, slicing through their fragile peace. Jack's heart sank. Who could it be now? He glanced at Emily and Hannah, who looked equally apprehensive. Does someone want to get that? He asked hesitantly. The silence lingered for a heartbeat longer. Or should we all go together? Hannah suggested, her brow furrowing again with uncertainty. Jack weighed the moment, standing at the crossroad of uncertainty and hope. Let us do it together, he finally replied, determination surfacing. They had reached a simmering point within their chaos, and whatever lay beyond that door could either refuel or shatter their fragile progress. One step at a time, he thought, his heart racing for what awaited them. What news would this sudden visitor bring? Jack took a deep breath, steeling himself as he made his way to the front door. The echo of his heartbeat filled his ears, drowning out the laughter that had just moments ago flooded the kitchen. With each step, he could feel the weight of his family's fragile progress pressing down on him. The stillness felt alive, vibrating with unspoken questions. He reached for the door handle, then hesitated. The thought of opening the door sent a wave of apprehension through him. Was it bad news? Or could it be a glimmer of hope that they had been searching for? He glanced back at Emily and Hannah, who stood a step behind him, exchanging nervous glances. Their wide eyes mirrored his own uncertainty. Together, he repeated under his breath, as if giving himself courage. He turned the handle and pulled the door open. Standing there, in stark contrast to the chaos behind them, was Mrs. Thompson, their most cherished neighbor. Her familiar smile flickered across her face, though Jack noticed the crease of concern in her brow. There was something about her presence that felt like a grounding force, but today, it also felt thick with hesitation. Hey, Mrs. Thompson, Jack said, voice steadier than he felt. Is everything all right? She cleared her throat, glancing between Jack and his daughters. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. I wanted to talk to you about something important. Her eyes darted back towards the kitchen momentarily, and the corner of her mouth tilted down, as if she could sense the heaviness of the moment. Of course, Jack replied, stepping back and waving for her to come in. Please, come inside. He turned to Emily and Hannah. Stay close, okay? They followed him into the living room, their expressions shifting from anxiousness to curiosity. Jack sat down on the couch, motioning for Mrs. Thompson to join them. She perched on the edge of the armchair, her hands clasped together. I'm sure you've heard about the local charity event next week. You know, the one supporting families in need? Jack nodded. He had heard whispers about it in the neighborhood. Well, I believe it's more than just a fundraiser. I think it could be an opportunity for all of you to, I don't know, connect with others who are going through similar struggles. Her tone turned softer, almost pleading. You shouldn't have to bear this burden alone, Jack. There are people who want to help. The weight of her words settled in the room. Jack felt a twinge in his chest, an urge to reject the idea of needing help. But then he glanced at his daughters, their faces reflecting that same flicker of hope. Could this charity event provide a means for them to rebuild? To find a community? We do need to connect, he murmured, unsure. But I don't want to impose. Mrs. Thompson shook her head, her eyes filled with understanding. It's not an imposition. It's an invitation to heal. You and your girls have been through so much. You deserve to feel supported. Jack's heart ached at the vision of a safe space where they could share their struggles. He saw his daughters, still harboring sadness, and felt the need to protect them. But the potential for healing through community pulsed within him, like a faint pulse of light breaking through the storm clouds. Just then, the air shifted. A sudden discomfort spread through the room. Hannah spoke up, her voice a fragile thread. What about Mark? Will he be okay if we go? Jack froze, the thought consuming him. Mark was still in a rough patch. Maybe attending the event would trigger something in him, a reckoning he wasn't sure he was ready for. What if he's not ready for that? Jack echoed with a furrowed brow. Mrs. Thompson nodded, her expression serious but kind. You don't have to decide right now. Talk to him. See how he feels. Just know, whatever you choose, you're not alone. The room fell quiet. A swirl of possibilities hung in the air around them. The thought of togetherness and healing flickered like an ember, but what if they stepped into the light and darkness found them again? Jack locked eyes with his daughters. A resolve began to form, stronger than fear, stronger than doubt. Maybe we could try, he finally said, though uncertainty still lingered. As Mrs. Thompson smiled, a flicker of hope surged within Jack. Would this be the beginning of understanding? Could they find their way through the chaos together? And just as they began to embrace the notion, a loud crash came from the kitchen, jolting them all. Jack's heart sank once more. What now? What was that? Emily squeaked, her eyes growing wide. They raced toward the noise, but deep inside, Jack knew the answer would lead them to something unexpected. What awaited them now in that familiar space of chaos? The kitchen was a flurry of commotion as Jack burst through the doorway. A vase lay shattered on the floor, pieces glimmering like shards of memory amidst the chaos. There stood Mark, his face flushed, pulling back his arm as if the motion had just escaped him. The brown fleece blanket that usually settled over the couch had slipped to the ground, revealing a torn piece of paper, a hastily scribbled note. Jack's heart raced. Mark! He exclaimed, trying to keep his voice steady. What happened? Mark's eyes flickered with a mix of anger and frustration. I was just trying to. He hesitated, jaw tightening, glancing at the mess on the floor. It slipped. I didn't mean to. Emily and Hannah stood frozen at the edge of the kitchen, their expressions a mixture of concern and curiosity. Jack felt the tension in the air thickening like fog. It's okay. Just take a deep breath. Let us clean this up together. Mark rolled his eyes but didn't move. The silence that followed felt heavy. Jack caught a glimpse of his son's internal struggle and the sudden surge of need to mend their family, to fix things that felt broken. Look, I know things haven't been easy, Jack began, stepping closer. We can figure this out together. You don't have to do it alone. Mark clenched his fists, the anger giving way to something softer: sadness, fear. You don't get it, Dad. No one gets it. His voice cracked as he gestured at the broken vase on the floor. It's like everything I touch just falls apart. Jack's heart sank. I do get it. I don't want to lose you or any of us. His voice softened. We all feel like we're falling apart sometimes. Hannah, watching quietly from her spot, took a tentative step forward. We could go to that charity event. I think Mrs. Thompson has a point. There will be others who understand. Mark's brow twisted, half hopeful, half resistant. What if it doesn't help? What if it makes things worse? Jack knelt to gather the broken pieces, his mind racing to find the right words. I can't promise it will be easy or perfect. But if we don't try, then we might just get stuck here. He looked up, meeting Mark's gaze. Are you willing to try? For a fleeting moment, it seemed Mark pondered. Then, the veil of tension fell across his face once again. I'll think about it, he mumbled, staring at the floor. Just then, Emily picked up the small torn note that had captured the attention of everyone. What's this? She asked, unfolding it carefully. The ink was faint, but a few words caught her eyes. For when I'm gone, Jack felt his heart race again. The air turned cold as the words hung like an omen. What had Mark been writing? What did gone mean? Mark? Jack ventured cautiously, uncertainty gathering like clouds of an impending storm. Mark shrugged, refusing to meet Jack's gaze. It's just something I was thinking about. Jack's pulse quickened. You have to talk to me. Please. I'm fine. Mark snapped, frustration boiling over. Just leave me alone. The weight of his words crashed onto Jack, but he remained calm. I want tea. I can't. I've got to stand with you, whether you want me there or not. Silence enveloped them once more, thick and suffocating. The echo of the shattering vase blended with the weight of unspoken feelings, heavy in the air. Jack glanced at his daughters, both worried but steadfast. We're all in this together, he said softly, but doubt lingered like a shadow refusing to retreat. As Mark turned away, frustration radiating from him like heat, Jack wondered how to breach this wall rising between them. Was this the beginning of true healing or just more shattered pieces to pick up? And then, the doorbell rang again, jarring him back from uncertainty. Who could it be now? What new confrontations awaited them on the other side? Jack's heart sank as he turned to the door, still grappling with the storm of emotions swirling around him. He glanced at Mark, whose back was now turned, hands shoved deep into his pockets, visibly shutting everyone out. The tension was thick enough to cut, and Jack wondered if he had made any headway at all. Taking a deep breath, he moved toward the door, steeling himself for whatever awaited them on the other side. He hesitated, the uncertainty creeping back in. Was it someone from the outside world? Someone who might just add to their growing chaos? With a quick, almost frantic glance back at his family, he reached for the doorknob and pulled the door open. Standing there was Mrs. Thompson, the cheerful woman from the charity committee, her bright smile and warm energy cutting through the heaviness of the moment. Jack. I hope I'm not interrupting, she chirped, her hand clutching a clipboard filled with papers. Not at all, he replied, forcing a smile, though his insides twisted with concern. Wonderful. I just wanted to bring you some more details about the charity event, she continued, glancing past him into the kitchen. Her expression shifted slightly, catching the tension. Is everything okay? Jack sighed, glancing back at Mark, who still refused to face them. We're just trying to sort through some things. Right, family stuff, Mrs. Thompson replied, her expression softening. I know how that goes. It can be hard, but you're doing the right thing by reaching out. Jack felt a flicker of gratitude. Thank you, he said quietly. Her sincerity lifted a tiny weight from his chest. Why don't I come in for a moment? She suggested. Maybe I can help. I'm quite good with kids. He hesitated just long enough for uncertainty to creep back in. Sure. Come on in. He stepped back to let her in, the other two girls peeking out from the hallway, their expressions a mix of hope and worry. Mrs. Thompson entered the kitchen, her eyes scanning the disarray. "Oh my, looks like someone had a little accident," she said, pointing to the broken vase with unintended cheerfulness. "Why don't we all pitch in and make this space a little brighter?" Mark still stood silent, and Jack felt frustrated again. How could someone so vibrant miss the darkness hanging over his son? "Mark, maybe you could. I don't want to clean up," he fired back, his voice sharp enough to cut through the air. "Just leave me alone." Jack's heart dropped. Mrs. Thompson glanced at Jack with a knowing look, one that said she understood the weight of adolescence. He could see she wanted to help, but now wasn't the time. "Mark," Jack said gently, coaxing his son back from the precipice of anger. "We need to talk about what's going on. Whatever's eating you up inside. You're not alone in this, we'll figure it out together. Please." Mark turned his face away, but the fire in his eyes flickered, just for an instant. Jack caught it a crack in the fortress, the faintest glimmer of vulnerability. The air felt charged, as if the moment held promises of hope and heartache all at once. But before he could seize it, a loud crash echoed from the living room, followed by a collective gasp. It felt like 1,000 weights were added to the atmosphere, pulling him down. What was that? Mark's face went pale as he and Emily rushed toward the sound. Jack's heart raced again, and he followed closely behind, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach. What now? As they burst into the living room, a jarring sight met them. The family photo frame that had hung on the wall for years lay shattered on the floor, the images of happier memories scattered like so many broken dreams. Jack's pulse raced as he realized this wasn't just chaos. This was more than an accident. This was a message. "What's happening to us?" he whispered, the tension in the air suffocating. But before he could process anything further, Mark whispered, "I didn't do that," and Jack's heart dropped. Could it be a sign of something deeper? What else was lurking beneath the surface? He felt the weight of eyes upon him, questions buzzing in the air, and in that moment, he knew they stood on the edge of something pivotal, a turning point that could either tear them apart or pull them closer than ever. But the real question remained, would they have the courage to face it? The air was heavy with unsaid words and unmade decisions as Jack stared at the broken glass on the floor, the remnants of their family history glittering dangerously under the soft light of the living room. Mark's voice, a thin veil of denial, echoed in his mind. "I didn't do that." What had just happened? Was this the manifestation of his son's anguish, a physical expression of their crumbling family? Jack felt a wave of emotions crash over him, anger, sadness, fear, all mingling into a potent mixture that throbbed in his chest. "Mark, please," he said, moving closer to his son. "We need to talk about this. This isn't just about the picture, this is about you. About all of us." Emily, the younger sister, was wide-eyed, backing up against the wall as if the shards of glass might jump and bite. Jack saw her fear and felt it wrap tightly around his own heart. Mrs. Thompson moved forward, kneeling beside the scattered pieces of their lives. "I know this feels overwhelming," she said softly, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Sometimes things fall apart so we can put them back together the right way." Jack glanced at her, seeing her sincerity, her unwavering belief that healing was possible. But could they even begin to heal amidst so much pain? Who could have done this? Emily whispered, her voice quaking. "Is someone mad at us? Are we in trouble?" "No, sweetie, it wasn't anyone," Jack assured her quickly, though a sliver of doubt crept in. "Things just happen sometimes." He was trying to reassure her, but the tension strung taut around them like a bow ready to snap. Mark, still not looking at either of them, spoke quietly, a barely contained tremor in his voice. Maybe it was just the house. It's old. Old things break." But Jack shook his head. "This isn't just about the house, Mark," he urged, his voice rising slightly in urgency. "It's about you. You can't keep carrying this weight. You need to let us in." Mark's gaze flickered, vulnerability briefly surfacing, but then he turned away again, pushing the emotions down just like he always did. Every part of Jack wanted to scream at him to open up, to feel, to let the world see the storm raging inside. Suddenly, the sound of another crash jolted them from their thoughts. Jack turned sharply toward the kitchen, the clang of metal against metal echoing ominously. His heart raced. What now? Stay here, I'll check it out, he instructed, moving toward the noise as instinct kicked in. He hated to leave them, but he couldn't ignore it. As he stepped cautiously into the kitchen, he saw dishes scattered across the floor, the remnants of a night's dinner gone wrong. A large pot had fallen, its lid rolling across the tiles. Jack's pulse quickened as he processed what this could mean. Was this more than just an accident? Had it really come to this? Suddenly, the thought popped into his head, perhaps they were being punished not by some external force, but by themselves. Each of them, wrestling with their own demons, pushing against their collective grief so that it could spill into their home like a relentless tide. That he turned back toward the living room, resolving to return to his family with newfound determination, but as he opened his mouth to speak, a chilling realization washed over him. What if it is us causing this? He wondered silently. What if we're tearing each other apart? Just then, Mark and Emily appeared in the doorway, their expressions a mix of confusion and fear. Jack's heart sank as he saw the question in their eyes. Were they truly falling apart, or was there still a chance for them to heal? Guys, he began, feeling the gravity of it all pressing down on him. We need to talk about what's going on in this house. But before he could finish, the lights flickered, the atmosphere thickening unbearably, and Jack felt a rush of dread wash over him. What other secrets lay hidden in the shadows? And with that realization, he knew this was only the beginning of something far deeper and more frightening. Would they be able to face the unseen forces that threatened to tear them apart? As Jack stood frozen in the doorway, the chaos of their home swirling around him, an unexpected clarity began to form. The shattered glass and broken plates were symbols of their disarray, physical manifestations of a deeper fracture within their family. This wasn't just bad luck, this was the echo of their struggles, every unspoken word pushing them further apart. Listen, everyone, Jack said, his voice steady but urgent, this is our chance to face what's really going on. We've let the fear of losing each other keep us silent. He took a cautious step toward Mark and Emily, widening the circle that had felt so constricted. If we face this together, maybe we can rebuild. Mark shifted his weight, the tension still clinging to him. But how? Everything feels like it's fallen apart. I don't know how to fix it. Emily stepped forward, her small form radiating a fragile strength. None of us do, but we can try together. Her bright eyes met her brother's with tenderness, offering a lifeline. Jack could see it, a flicker of hope ignited in that moment. Mrs. Thompson watched quietly, her presence supportive, reminding them that they weren't alone, that community could offer a different lens to see their problems through. Jack took a deep breath. Mark, I can't pretend to know what you're feeling right now, but I see you. I see the way you carry your pain. You don't have to hide it anymore. That anger, it's valid. But it can't be directed at one another anymore. It needs to go somewhere else. Mark rubbed the back of his neck, frustration ebbing just enough to reveal a hint of vulnerability. I just want to escape. It's like every time I turn around, something worse happens. Emily glanced at him, eyes brimming with empathy. We can escape together. We can face what's been breaking us instead of letting it push us apart. Tears started to spill down Jack's cheeks, hot and heavy. You both are the most important part of my life. Each of you brings something special, and I've been so focused on fixing everything that I forgot to appreciate what we have. The silence between them felt different now, a softening of their defenses. Hannah, who had been standing apart, shifted closer, drawn in by the words of love and truth. I've been so lost in wanting things to be perfect that I lost sight of how we could be real. We can be messy together. I don't want to lose either of you. Her voice cracked, and Jack could see the unresolved walls crumbling down around them. Together, he affirmed, glancing at all of them. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be honest. Today, we can choose to confront this instead of ignoring it. At that moment, the lights flickered again, but this time, it felt like the universe was validating their resolve. Suddenly bursting with determination, Jack stepped toward the kitchen. They followed, slowly, cautiously, assembling in a circle. The mending was beginning. "Let us clean up this mess," Jack said, grabbing a broom, "and while we do it, let us talk." With each sweep of the broom, they engaged, sharing fragments of themselves they had hidden for too long. Emily shared stories of her art, how it felt to be unseen. Mark cautiously revealed the pressures of expectations, how school and friends weighed on him. "And even you, Hannah," Jack said gently, "what have your struggles been?" Hannah let out a shaky breath. "I wanted to be perfect for you, and I forgot that life isn't just about perfection. I missed how much Emily needed a mother figure." From the corner of the room, Mrs. Thompson interjected, a knowing smile on her face. "It's beautiful to see you all together. Truth has a way of lightening burdens." The chatter flowed, the kitchen space coming back to life with laughter as they swept up more than just debris. They shared hopes for the charity event, revelations about forgiveness, and their dreams for a family that didn't have to wear a mask of perfection but could embrace its imperfections instead. As they filled the trash can with remnants of their old lives, the tensions in the room shifted. When moments of silence came, they were no longer filled with dread or misunderstanding but rather a comfort of companionship. They had the strength to be a family again, finishing with laughter and a new perspective, the atmosphere light and bright. Jack looked at his daughter, then at Mark and Hannah. Maybe this is just the beginning. With the weight lifted, and each heart more open than it had been in a long time, Jack knew one thing for sure: they had all faced something here, and they had emerged stronger. This was their moment of healing, and as he took a deep breath, he invited them to take the next step together into the world outside, a world full of possibilities. "Are you ready?" he asked, excitement bubbling in him. "Yes," Emily replied, her smile radiant. Mark nodded, his resolve strengthened. With Hannah beside him, they stepped forward, arms threaded together, not just family by blood, but family by choice, ready to face whatever the world held for them. Together, join our journey, share your thoughts and let us know how this story resonated with you. You need to subscribe now and become part of our community. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. This is the moment to show your support.